that's what you get, school board president, you took all the cops out. I fundamentally don't believe that if we had them, I think they'd be sitting here saying too, what's going on?
So we aren't the only ones that have been wondering what in the hell is going on. Even Columbus City School Board President Jennifer Adair had to ask last week, what's going on?
To me, they're like, well, that's what you get, school board president, you took all the cops out. I fundamentally don't believe that if we had them, I think they'd be sitting here saying too, what's going on?
That's right, you saw it right there. And what we're talking about is all the school violence that has been happening across the middle and high schools. Just this month alone, in Columbus City schools, Mifflin High School was placed on lockdown because a student had a gun in their book bag in their locker. The gun was confiscated and the student was arrested. And then a few days later at Centennial High School, a student had a gun with an extra long magazine that held up to 29 bullets. And he was concealing that weapon in his book bag in a classroom. He was arrested too, but not just in those two incidents, but there have been over 200 fights thus far this school year in each of the individual high schools and middle schools in total.
There are many fights that I think are not being reported.
To me, the numbers could be concerning because these could have the potential to double or triple.
And this school year is really only halfway through. We still have yet another 18 weeks to go, or another 90 school days.
Not optimistic that most students, or at least many, are going to change their behavior based on hearing that it may have severe consequences later in their life. That's just not the nature of kids.
So I asked a question just like Brother Marvin asked all those decades ago. What is going on? What can we do to bring some love back in school today? One could make the argument that all the violence here is due to all the violence going on in our communities. One could also make the argument that all the violence happening in schools is because of the pandemic and all of the changes that have come along with it. But one thing remains true, and the school board president happens to agree with us, that school resource officers being back in schools wouldn't make any difference. They wouldn't help the situation really, because we probably still would have all this violence going on.
I'm not sure 19 SROs in our high schools would stop anything that's going on right now.
Because we haven't gotten to the root of the problem. So by this point, you probably all are wondering, what is the root of the problem? Do you know, Devontae? Does UnBoss know? Well, we don't know what the root of the problem is, because just like all the violence is happening within our school system, we're seeing the same violence take place in our community. But what I can tell you is that nothing can root out all this violence except love. We have got to find a way to bring love back into our community, love back into our schools. And I'm asking you, this holiday season, this Kwanzaa season, what are you doing to bring love back into our communities? What in the hell is going on? We're going to continue to follow the story and to stay on top of it, because if we don't, who else will? In Columbus, I'm Devontae Goins for UnBoss.